Alright, it appears there's some misunderstandings, some confusion over my deck design philosophy, why I build decks the way I do. This is triggered by a couple comments I had on Voya, Jaws of the Conclave, where people pointed out that my build is weak, that I can make it more explosive, I can make it better, I can make it stronger, make it better, faster, stronger. But there's a good reason why I build the deck the way I did. I have the luxury of playing in a known player environment with a known play group. For example, the Genie and I, we've known each other for 6 years. We've been playing together for 5. We understand each other pretty well. We have our disputes, our disagreements, but overall, we kind of know what the other is going to do. Same with the Cube. I kind of know what he's going to do. And what they've done over the past, about a year, is they keep fielding precons. They'll buy a precon they like, and they'll bring it. And these are the good, strong precons now. These are the new precons. For example, the Cube loves his Mothman deck from Fallout. He has the Warhammer decks, which aren't as good as the decks now, but they're still pretty strong. They're stronger than what I was building myself 6-7 years ago. So with that, I know what's acceptable and what's not. I know what I can get away with and what I shouldn't do in order to not suck the fun out of everybody's night. These lads don't get to play that often. They're gainfully employed. I'm not right now. So I have time to think about my decks. I have time to think about what I'm going to do, tune them, build them, and so on. They don't. So they get to play. Cube gets to play once a week. The Genie plays online a lot, so he buffs up his play skills, but the decks that he brings to the Thursday night pub night, pretty much the same decks that he's had for a while, unless he buys a new precon. As I talk about this, I'm also going to make a change to what I'm going to put in Tulsimir Friend. I forget who told me about him, but I completely misread the card. I misread it as when the wolf enters the battlefield, I gain 3 life and it fights a target creature you don't control. I completely skipped over up to, so it doesn't have to fight another creature, but it can if that's a good idea at the time. So I'm going to put in Tulsimir, Friend of Wolves. Also, in line with the philosophy of the deck, so one lad started to list a lot of cards that I should have in the deck to make it stronger, without really understanding my philosophy of why it's not strong. He said, I'm playing a $700 deck at a $70 level. And he's right. And that's intentional. That's by design. If you have a known play group, if you have lads that you play against regularly, play with regularly, you get a feel for what you can do and what you can't, what kind of decks you can bring and what you shouldn't. You can, of course, exceed that, spark an arms race, and next week everybody's playing at a higher power level. And maybe you weren't ready for it. Maybe you just built that one deck and you go back to lower power level and you get outclassed. That's what I'm trying to avoid. And one way I'm trying to avoid that is I bought this card specifically for Voya. When I was building the deck, when I was first planning it out, and there is a plan behind it, I thought Masquerade Nexus, that's perfect. Creature control every creature type, so everything is an elf, everything is wolf. Fantastic. That suits me down to the ground. But it's really a bit too strong. And to be honest, I kind of like the tension of seeing if I have enough elves and wolves to really get going. If I have enough wolves to really draw enough cards that matter, to really start digging into my deck. And if I have enough elves to make all my creatures biggable, to make them bigger, to make them suitable threats. So this card is not in the deck, and that's by design. There are other cards mentioned that are not in the deck by design, such as a high number of shapeshifters. I don't want shapeshifters. I do have one in the deck. I have a Mirror Entity. That is my one swap to shapeshifters, and that's the one creature that can give everything else every other creature type. But that's just one. Everything else is a wolf or an elf. with a few exceptions, on purpose. So let's take a look. Let's see what I'm going to take out. I should probably put a Fauna Shaman in here. And Elish Norn. Both commentators pointed out Elish Norn is kind of a pet card. It doesn't belong in the deck. Without seeing what I'm doing with it, I'm running it because I like it, because she amuses me in the deck. The first time I brought her out, it was completely unexpected, and I like that surprise element. She controls small flyers, and one of the lads said, if you're worried about 2/2 flyers, you're probably not playing a good deck. Or I'm just playing at the power level that is acceptable in my playgroup. If your playgroup is hardcore, is rougher, by all means, don't build Void the way I did. Build him explosive, build him with a lot of search. Do what you have to do to engage in your games. It's not, even though I want to win, everybody wants to win. It's about being relevant in the game. The Genie recently made a comment that I play a deck once and I take it apart if it doesn't work. No, I play it a few times and then I goldfish it at home, and if it's not going to work, then I take it apart. That's what happened to Rafik. That's what happened to Karthus. I realized they were not working, so I took them apart. And I know my decks well enough to understand when they are and are not going to work. Mirante, there he is. X creatures scroll become XX and gain all creature types till end of turn. So the reason I stopped on this is the strongest card in the deck, and I can search for it. By virtue of Shalai and Halara having green, I can pull them out with the Green Sun Zenith. I can also pull them out with Defense of the Heart. I am considering putting Fauna Shaman in here, but I'm not sure if I want to go that route. Something I do in my decks is I do have a lot of search, but usually it's search for land, it's search for specific things. I do not have many decks with unrestricted search. I only have one deck with a Vampiric Tutor. No, two decks. I have two decks. No, one, just one. Just one with Vampiric Tutor. And I have two decks with a Demonic Tutor. And neither one can really search for anything incredibly explosive by design. Shroom. When I had the Disciple of the Vault Sculpting Steel Shroom combo, I could not search for Disciple of the Vault, and that was by design, so I wouldn't just go for the game-winning combo and end it. And even after that, I took out Disciple of the Vault completely, so as not to have that combo present in the deck, full stop. Because I don't want to win that way. My opponents don't want to see that bullshit. So I'm putting in Tolsimir Friend of Wolves, taking out Genesis Wave. You might think this is crazy, but decided I'd rather have him than Genesis Wave, and it lowers the overall CMC of the deck. Genesis Wave, yeah, it says 3, but effectively it's 7. It's 9. If I'm doing it for less than, I'm not going to cast Genesis Wave for less than 7. I'm not going to dig and look at less than the top 4. Even then, that feels unsatisfying. So, what else isn't really working? Also, a lot of comments, a lot of, the theme in both those comments, not a lot of the comments, but what I've discovered, if somebody writes something, if somebody says something in a public forum, other people are thinking it. So other people must be thinking that I don't have enough haste, that I'm an idiot for taking on Urabrask the Hidden. Let me tell you why I did it. So, I have Aurelia. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying not to buy new cards and I don't need to. The other thing I want to do is I've got this massive amount of cards just sitting in a binder, not doing anything, and I want to play them. I want to employ them where they matter. So if I have 2 copies of Urabrask, which I do now, but I'm going to the shop later today, do some trading, picking up another card for Aurelia, and they've got foil, what is it, Secret Friends, Super Lair, Mystic, Book, something. They've got this special edition Urabrask the Hidden foil for only 60 crowns, €3. So I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy another Urabrask the Hidden, and I'll give that one to Aurelia. So this one can go into Voya. But until that point, I owned 2 copies of Urabrask the Hidden, and I wanted to put them in the decks where they matter the most. And I don't want my decks to all feel the same. I have 19 Commander decks now. 2 are Lord of the Rings precons that have modified with Lord of the Rings cards. The other 17, I don't want to see the same cards over and over again in every deck. I do that enough with Eternal Witness, Wood Elves, Solemn Simulacrum. I have a suite of about 5 or 6 cards that I have multiples of that are well represented across my decks. And I want to minimize that because I want them all to feel different, to play different, to give me a different challenge every time. And that goes back to not having unrestricted search. So let's see what I can take out to put in Urabrask. That's what originally went in to replace Urabrask when he was here before, Inigo Montoya. He will definitely stay. I don't want to take out any elves or wolves. I suppose giving all my creatures haste is better than giving 1 creature haste. And Voya already has Ward 3, so it's a little bit hard to target him. And the fact that I have a Titania song and I expect to shut off everybody's artifacts. So maybe Swiftfoot Boots will come out. And then I'll get some comments on that and how I'm an idiot for taking out Swiftfoot Boots. But again, it's just about my design philosophy. It's about understanding my play group. It's about I want to play with old goofy cards. I want to play with stuff like this, Soul Sculptor. When is the last time you saw anybody play this card? Probably has been a while. And he's in here, she's in here. Target player becomes an enchantment, lose all creatures until somebody successfully casts a creature. Well, while it's an enchantment, before it becomes a creature again, if I have No Mage Shepherd and 4 untapped creatures, I can destroy that enchantment. I can destroy that creature. So it's a goofy, inefficient way of creature kill. But I like it. I want to do it. What else can I take out? Sun Titan is really good in here. Oh, I do have Fauna Shaman in the deck. I forgot. I could take out Lapse of Certainty. But kind of like the surprise counter spell. Yeah, it's just memory lapse. It's a white memory lapse. But it's unexpected. If you have any white decks, and you have the room in it, play a Lapse of Certainty. Just shove it in there and look at the expression of people's faces when you play it, because they won't be expecting it. Nobody expects a Lapse of Certainty. There she is, Titania Song. The deck right now only has 2 artifacts, Swiftfoot Boots and Scroll Rack. Scroll Rack, of course. Once you do the first racking and you put cards on top of your library, unless you can shuffle your deck, you're just fixing your draws for the next few turns. Of course, with Voya, you get a hell of a draw sometimes. So you pick all those cards back up. And she will shut off the Scroll Rack, but she shuts off a lot of things my opponents are doing. So that's good. Do I need asceticism? Can't be the target, suppose it gives my creatures hexproof and regenerates them. Haste is probably better. So maybe that will come out. He entertains me, so he will stay. Beast Whisperer definitely stays. Can't take out any lands because I'm already at 36 lands, which is tight. But I have so many mana elves, I can get away with it, I think. So those seem to be the best 2 options for putting in Urabrask. A 5-mana enchantment gives my creatures hexproof, and I can regenerate them. Or an artifact gives my creature, a creature, hexproof and haste. So, across these three, one gets hexproof and haste. All of them get hexproof. All of them get haste. But the boots, if I get the boots early, then I can slap them on somebody and attack. Because Voya competes with Urabrask at this 5-mana slot. When I hit 5 mana, I want to cast Voya. Samut is doing the same thing, or Indigo and Montoya. So I think asceticism is what I want to take out. But I'll put this in the box of cards I take to the Commander Knights. And if it turns out that was a dumb move and I really need to give everything hexproof, I can put asceticism back in. Let's just take a quick review to make sure that nothing else jumps out at me as a better choice. Okay, Titania Song doesn't do anything else. But the lads play a lot of mana rocks, especially Cube in his Eldrazi deck. And this just shuts them down. Heroic Intervention saves my board. This finds Inigo Montoya. This brings things back. Yeah, this finds all kinds of fun enchantments, mainly Aloran. Let's see. Nothing else is really jumping out at me. Eternal Witness. A little bit of recursion. So what else? Scroll rack. There's the scroll rack. So that would be possible. Reconnaissance. So it gives my creature pseudo vigilance. If I attack, and I want to attack with abandon. If I attack and something happens, some flashed-in creature, and I don't want my creature to trade with it or to get killed by it, I can remove them from combat and untap it. Fracturing Gust. This is pretty good. Yeah, I better keep that in there. Spirit of the Spirit of the Haunt. Wrath of God. I need at least one way to wipe the board. There's Tolsimir. Fires the of Maya. Gives everything a haste. And if it's targeted, I can sacrifice it. Sun Titan can bring it back. Inigo Montoya. Gives my other creatures haste. He has haste, double strike, and vigilance. He's pretty damn good. He's not an elf or a wolf, but he's just pretty damn good. And he can untap another creature, which sounds kind of tacked on, but it's there, so perhaps I'll use it. Well, I can attack Priest of Titania. Maybe I should just take out Elish Norn. One of the things mentioned was Gravity Well. I'd rather run Gravity Sphere. I don't own one at the moment, but if I was going to buy that kind of effect, I would get Gravity Sphere, which all creatures lose flying. It's a red enchantment from Legends that costs 2 colorless and 1 red. Gravity Well, all attacking creatures that fly lose flying when they attack. So they're still flying on defense, which doesn't really matter because if somebody is attacking with flying creatures, those also hit the ground. But it costs 1 colorless and 2 green. So Gravity Sphere being easier to cast, it's more interesting to me. Maybe I should take out Elish Norn. Elish Norn doesn't really fit in here. Does clean up the board from my opponent's small creatures, especially the flying creatures. So I don't know if I should put asceticism back in instead of her, or if once I acquire a gravity sphere, I should put that in instead of her. I'll think about it. I'll see what happens. Growing Rights, that just flips over to Guy's Cradle. That's another protection spell. I only have 4 mass protection spells, and sometimes I think that's not quite enough. So I think that's it. I think that is the extent of the changes I will make to Voya. I've explained more of my design philosophy, why I build my decks the way I do. Because I don't want to overrun my opponent. I want to win, but I don't want to crush everybody at the table, spark an arms race, and have everybody feel bad and get a lot of nasty complaints about how I'm playing an overpowered deck in the face of a bunch of precons. But that argument is starting to piss me off because the precons are good now. So I'm rejecting that argument in the future. Unless you're playing older precon, then fair enough. Fair enough, the older precons suck.